New discovery in Egypt shocks scientists. You won't believe it. The past holds many secrets, and we're here to uncover them. Join us on this epic historical journey. Like, subscribe, and be part of the discovery. But what most people don't realize is that this whole pyramid building trend actually started with the step pyramid of Djoser about 4,700 years ago. This massive structure was built for Pharaoh Djoser, one of Egypt's early rulers. It rises 7 levels above the ground and stands around 200 feet tall. Today we see it as an architectural marvel, but back then it was more like a giant experiment, a trial run, so to speak, where ancient Egyptians tested their construction skills before moving on to build the grander pyramids later. Surrounding it is what's called a dry moat, a continuous trench about 164 feet wide and roughly 2 meters deep, forming a kind of rectangle around the pyramid. On average, this trench is around 65 feet deep. Now, if you piled up all the earth and rock they dug out to create this trench, it would be 10 times the size of the step pyramid itself.
For a long time, people thought the trench was just a massive quarry, the place where they dug out the stone and clay to build the pyramid. Makes sense, right? But if you look closely, it doesn't add up. The trench is too narrow and deep to be practical for mining, and its design doesn't match any known ancient Egyptian excavation methods. Plus, some parts of the trench are even covered with stone ceilings, making it nearly impossible to use as a quarry.
Another theory suggests the dry moat had a spiritual purpose. Maybe it was a sacred space where spirits gathered to serve the dead king in the afterlife. There are even niches in the walls that might hint at this spiritual role. But most researchers now believe that idea came long after Djoser's time and wasn't the trench's original purpose. So, what was it really for? In 2020, a researcher came up with a pretty interesting theory. What if the trench was actually designed to collect and manage rainwater? That idea makes a lot of sense when you consider that the area could easily flood from nearby high ground during heavy rains. And this might also explain why the trench wasn't used for burials until later, when the climate became drier and flooding was less common.
But here's where it gets even more fascinating. The trench might have been part of a larger, more complex hydraulic system inside Djoser's pyramid complex. It looks like the trench connects to several chambers carved into the rock and linked by tunnels. These chambers might have been used to filter and move water, with the water flowing from one chamber to the next, getting cleaner as it went. Now here's where things start connecting to the pyramid itself. Under the complex, there's a series of shafts and columns, and some researchers think water from the trench might have been used to power a hydraulic lift system. Basically, a giant water-powered elevator that lifted the massive stones needed to build the pyramid.
Imagine a giant pit in the middle of the construction site. Inside it, there's a huge wooden platform like a big raft. When workers wanted to lift a stone, they'd fill the pit with water. As the water rose, the platform would float, carrying the stone upward, like a giant water elevator. Once the stone reached the right height, workers would pull it off the platform and place it on the pyramid. The idea is that water from the deep trench, once cleaned and filtered, would flow into this system, causing a huge float, probably made of wood, to rise, lifting the stone to where it was needed. Pretty wild, right? They let the water out and lowered the platform back down to get ready to lift the next stone. This advanced hydraulic lift system could have been a total game changer, making construction faster and more efficient without needing huge amounts of manpower. It's like the ancient Egyptians figured out how to work smarter, not harder. But of course not everyone buys into this theory.
Some experts argue that the area where Djoser's step pyramid was built just couldn't hold enough rainwater to power such a high-tech water system.
The main theory suggests that maybe in the past there was a nearby lake that would fill up during heavy rains and supply water to this hydraulic system.
But the problem is, no ancient Egyptian texts ever mention a lake like that. So, for now, it's more of a what-if than proven fact.
And then there's the issue of the hard labor itself. Remember how we said this system might have allowed the ancient builders to lift stones with less effort?
Well, according to some researchers, Just building this hydraulic device would have taken even more effort than simply dragging the stones the old-fashioned way, with good old muscle power.
Also, let's not forget, Djoser's pyramid was small compared to the ones that came later. The stones used in his pyramid weighed about 660 pounds each, which is nothing compared to the 2.5-ton blocks used in the pyramid of Khafra.
And even if we throw out the whole water lift idea, we still have to ask, how was the pyramid built in the first place?
To answer that, we need to rewind a bit and look at the original plan.
See, before Djoser's tomb became a pyramid, it was originally going to be a mastaba, a common type of flat-roofed rectangular tomb with sloped sides. But after they built the first mastaba, they decided to expand it upward, layer by layer, until it became the 6-step pyramid we see today. Each level was slightly smaller than the one below it.
Most likely they used ramps, not a water-powered elevator, to lift those heavy stones.
There's still a lot we don't know about Djoser's step pyramid. We need more research to fully understand how the system might have worked, or if it even existed at all.
But the idea of using water to help build a pyramid? That adds a whole new layer to our understanding of ancient Egyptian engineering. It's a powerful reminder of just how clever and resourceful those builders really were, using the natural landscape and the power of water to create one of history's most iconic monuments. Before we dive into why pyramids show up all over the world and how that even happened, let's look at a few cool examples.
Let's start with the Pyramid of the Sun in Mexico. These people seriously knew how to build a city. Their urban center stretched out over 7 square miles, packed with pyramids. The Pyramid of the Sun is the most impressive of them all.
Built around 100 AD, it's one of the largest structures of its kind in the entire Western Hemisphere. It rises a whopping 216 feet above ground. If you ever visit the ancient city of Teotihuacan, you won't miss it. It's right there on the east side of the Avenue of the Dead, the main north-south road of the city.
To build this massive structure, they used around 1 million cubic yards of materials, including a special kind of red volcanic rock called tezontle. Pretty impressive, right? We still don't know a ton about the people who built the Pyramid of the Sun or exactly what it was for, but archaeologists think there used to be a temple at the top.
In the 1970s, explorers went underneath and found a network of tunnels and hidden rooms. And in 2011, they even discovered a secret stash filled with pottery, obsidian blades, animal bones, statues, and even a mask. Who knows what other secrets this pyramid still hides?
And if you're planning to see it in person, you'll have to climb it using 24 to 48 uneven stone steps on the western side. So yeah, watch your step.
Now let's head to Sudan, which also has pyramids. The Nubian pyramids there aren't as massive as Egypt's, but there are around 200 of them. These ancient pyramids served as tombs for the pharaohs of the Kingdom of Meroe, which ruled for almost 1,000 years from Nubia all the way to the Mediterranean.
They were built using granite and red sandstone. And fun fact, Sudan actually has pyramids older than Egypt's. The Kushite pyramids reflect the original architecture and burial traditions of the ancient Napata and Meroe kingdoms in Nubia, deeply influenced by ancient Egyptian culture.
One burial site alone contains tombs of over 40 kings and queens, making it the largest and most complete collection of Nubian pyramids anywhere. Inside the tombs you'll find painted walls showing mummified kings, their wooden chests filled with jewels, bows and quivers full of arrows.
There are also other artifacts that point to Meroe's connections and trade with Egyptian and Greek civilizations. So if you're looking to explore some ancient tombs, you might want to skip the crowds in Egypt and head to Sudan instead.
Now let's fly over to Iraq to check out more pyramids. What they have there are called ziggurats, massive stepped structures with fancy layered terraces and multi-level temples. Unlike the smooth-sided pyramids of Egypt, these look more like tiered wedding cakes, perfect for ceremonies and important rituals that happened inside.
You can find these towering structures all over Iraq and Iran, and they're a real testament to the skill and power of the people who built them. One of the largest and most impressive ziggurats is the Ziggurat of Ur. It's basically a huge rectangular pyramid between 70 to 100 feet tall with 3 levels of terraces and a temple at the top. Can you imagine how many bricks it took to build this thing? Just the bottom layer alone used around 720,000 baked bricks.
This specific ziggurat was built by the Sumerian king Ur-Nammu, and like others of its kind, it's been standing for thousands of years. So yeah, it's gotten a little worn around the edges. Luckily, King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon and later some archaeologists helped restore parts of it, so you can still see it today near Talil Air Base.
The ziggurat was built around 2100 BCE by King Ur-Nammu for the moon god Nana. It was the tallest building in the city, visible for miles, kind of like a cathedral spire back in medieval Europe. People used to come here to bring their extra crops, receive food rations, and even seek spiritual guidance. Unfortunately, the temple at the top didn't survive, but some blue-glazed bricks were found, which were probably part of its decoration. The lower levels are still stunning, so much so that ancient architects even added drainage holes to help water evaporate from inside the baked brick core. Pretty smart, right?
Now that we've seen a few pyramids around the world, let's zoom out and take a broader look. There are over 100 pyramids in Egypt, twice that many in Sudan, and dozens more scattered across the Middle East and China. But the Americas actually have the most pyramids overall, more than the rest of the world combined. You'll find them in Mexico, Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador.
So now it's time to dig into how pyramids evolved over time. The oldest pyramid is in Egypt. It was a step pyramid made by stacking layers of stone on top of each other. Pharaoh Djoser is credited with commissioning the first one we know of. Later, during Pharaoh Sneferu's reign around 45 CE, they experimented with new designs. His first attempt didn't quite work, but eventually he nailed it with the Red Pyramid, which is considered the first true pyramid. His son Khufu went on to build the Great Pyramid of Giza, which held the title of tallest man-made structure on Earth for nearly 4,000 years.
In the Americas, the Mayan and Aztec pyramids look similar to those early Egyptian step pyramids, but they were built completely independently, with no contact between the civilizations. The Sudanese pyramids came later, around 700 BCE. They're taller and narrower than Egypt's, but still incredibly impressive. So how did all these different civilizations, spread across the globe and with no contact, end up building the same kind of structure?
Well, even though the Aztecs, Mayans, and Egyptians were totally different culturally, they all seemed to agree on one thing. Pyramids were awesome. Why? Because step pyramids were the most stable and practical way to build tall structures, especially without access to lighter building materials like wood or metal. A triangle on top of a square base is simply the strongest, most efficient design you can get. Trying to build a cube-shaped building would take more materials and wouldn't be as tall.
When it came to style, though, each culture had its own vibe. Egyptian pyramids looked like smooth-sided triangles with sharp tips meant to help the pharaoh's soul ascend to the sky. The Aztecs and Mayans, on the other hand, went for that stepped layer cake look, with staircases leading to flat platforms on top, perfect for temples and rituals. So while all these pyramids share a similar shape, they each have their own twist. Different materials, different construction techniques, different angles.
Sometimes they may have inspired each other. Other times they were just doing their own thing. Egyptian pyramids had smooth faces and symbolic slopes. The Pyramid of the Sun in Mexico was built over a series of caves, believed to be a pathway for the gods. The Maya built the Temple of Kukulkan in Chichen Itza to honor the feathered serpent god Kukulkan, also known as El Castillo. It has 91 steps on each of its 4 sides, plus a top platform, adding up to 365 steps, one for every day in the Mayan calendar.
Now, let's clear something up. Pyramids were built by humans, not aliens from outer space. The truth is, every pyramid around the world was built using local people, local tools, and brilliant engineering. No UFOs required. They didn't have advanced tools or even the wheel. Building the pyramids took a ton of people, including skilled workers and architects. For example, it's estimated that about 20,000 people helped build the Great Pyramid of Giza, and most of them were probably skilled laborers.
Building a pyramid was a massive job that took years of planning and effort. The Great Pyramid of Cholula in Mexico took 600 years to finish. Just imagine working 7 days a week on a giant construction site, alongside thousands of others, lifting millions of stone blocks and carefully stacking them, all without any modern construction equipment. No air conditioning, no constant water supply, and the heat? So intense, you could probably fry an egg on the ground.
You spend decades helping build this thing, and when it's finally done, you stand back and take in the result of generations of hard work. You're looking at a massive cultural monument that'll stand the test of time and amaze people for thousands of years. Flash forward a few millennia, and now people in the 21st century walk up to these pyramids and say, "Wow, I can't believe humans built this."
Well, the people who actually built the pyramids wouldn't have appreciated that theory much, but honestly, some of the precision involved in the construction does raise eyebrows. From the outside, the pyramids just look like giant triangle-shaped stacks of stone, like people just kept piling blocks on top of each other until, boom, a pyramid. But the truth is, the design is so precise, it's hard to believe. The Great Pyramid is made of over 2 million blocks, and they're so perfectly aligned, you can't even slide a sheet of paper between them.
Scientists still don't fully understand how the ancient Egyptians managed to build it all so perfectly. One of the most mysterious features of the Great Pyramid is something called the pyramidion, which is the capstone that was supposed to sit at the very top. Think of it like a mini pyramid on top of the big one, made of granite or limestone and possibly covered in gold. But here's the thing, we've never found this capstone for the Great Pyramid. There are no ancient drawings or records that confirm what it looked like or that it even existed there.
However, another pyramid, the Red Pyramid, which was built before the Great Pyramid, still has its capstone, and archaeologists were able to find it and reconstruct it. So where did the Great Pyramid's capstone go? That's still a mystery. Some people think it was stolen by tomb robbers. Maybe they climbed to the top and pushed it off to take it. Honestly, that wouldn't be surprising. The capstone might have been the most valuable part of the whole pyramid.
Experts still debate what its exact purpose was. Some believe it was covered in gold to honor the pharaohs. At night it would have reflected the moonlight, and during the day it would shine in the sun, making the pyramid visible from miles away, like a glowing beacon guiding travelers. It's said the entire top of the pyramid acted like a lighthouse in the desert. All the other stones in the pyramid were made of limestone, and in the past they were polished to a shine. The pyramid used to glow, reflecting sunlight. People say you could even see the glowing pyramids from space. They looked like tiny lights in the desert.
But over thousands of years, wind, sandstorms, and rain wore them down. If they had been regularly maintained, they'd probably look today like something straight out of a sci-fi movie, or like the pyramids in Las Vegas. Unfortunately, we'll never get to see what they originally looked like.
Now, some researchers believe the capstone, or pyramidion, had an energy-related purpose. It might have been able to absorb solar energy and distribute it throughout the pyramid. No one knows exactly why the Egyptians would need this kind of tech, but there's a theory that the pyramids were actually ancient energy systems.
According to that theory, the pharaohs harnessed this energy using advanced technology, possibly more advanced than anything we have in the 21st century. The pyramid's triangular shape supposedly helped amplify electromagnetic energy. The idea is that solar radiation or electromagnetic forces would build up at the top of the pyramid, then travel down the smooth sides and fill the internal chambers.
Even the slightest distortion in the surface would mess with the flow of energy. So the builders had to fit the stones perfectly, so tightly that not even a needle or razor blade could fit between them. A lot of people believe in this theory because the pyramids were built using limestone, a material that can store energy. Inside, they used granite deposits to create ionized air, which can produce a small electrical charge. They even dug channels under the pyramid to move water, like a natural battery. And at the top they may have placed a golden capstone, since gold is one of the best conductors of electricity. Put all that together, and you've basically got an ancient power generator.
Different cultures around the world used similar techniques to generate electricity. At least that's what some theories suggest. But they're just theories. If these ancient technologies really worked, we'd probably still be using them today. There are some references in old texts to metallurgy, chemistry, engineering, physics, math, and astronomy, but most scientists don't really believe all that.
In the 21st century, we actually have a detailed understanding of how technology developed across different cultures. Scientists, historians, and anthropologists can track the evolution of almost every modern device. If people had really come up with advanced inventions thousands of years ago, the entire course of history might have looked different.
Then again, maybe those ancient accomplishments were completely wiped out by some global disaster. Could happen to us too. Just imagine someone digging up a laptop in 5,000 years. They might not even realize what it is.
One of the most mysterious wonders in Egypt is the Sphinx. It was carved out of a single massive block of limestone about 4,500 years ago. But even now, scientists don't know the exact date it was built or who actually built it. Back then, people painted the Sphinx in bright colors, so it looked much more vivid and lively. It used to shine in the sunlight just like the pyramids did. Time didn't just change how it looks, though, it changed its name too.
The ancient Egyptians originally called it Hor-em-Akhet, which means Horus of the horizon. A few hundred years later, the Greeks renamed it the Sphinx. The Sphinx wasn't just a cool statue, it symbolized the power of Egypt's rulers and acted like a guard dog, protecting the pharaoh's tomb and the paths that led to it. That theory actually makes sense because archaeologists have found several hidden entrances at the base of the Sphinx. Some believe these secret tunnels and chambers might lead to underground halls filled with treasures.
And treasure doesn't always mean gold and jewels. According to myths and theories, the Sphinx guards the Hall of Records, a place that supposedly contains all of humanity's ancient knowledge. It might even have information about the legendary city of Atlantis. You can find all kinds of detailed maps online showing the underground dungeon layout beneath the Sphinx. Some go as deep as 12 floors and show what looks like an underground city packed with gold, scrolls, and ancient artifacts. But don't take those maps too seriously, they're mostly just theories.
Thousands of years have passed, and we still know very little about what's really down there. Archaeologists do believe there are still many strange and fascinating secrets about the Sphinx we haven't uncovered yet. Some local people are too scared to explore those underground areas, believing it might awaken something dangerous. That's why most of the excavation work is done by researchers from other countries.
In 1998, scientists discovered strange tunnels leading to empty chambers under the Sphinx. They realized that someone else had already been there, probably took everything valuable long ago. According to one legend, powerful artifacts lie hidden beneath the Sphinx, tech so advanced it could change the world. But supposedly, locals are keeping it secret to protect the planet from its potential danger.
Some people even believe that there are clues to unknown technologies carved on the granite walls inside the pharaoh's tombs. But more realistically, those drawings and symbols probably just tell myths and stories from ancient Egypt. Then again, what if those symbols are actually instructions, step-by-step guides for using ancient tech? What if the ancient Egyptians figured future humans wouldn't be able to produce energy on their own, so they left behind the directions?
There are so many mysteries and theories out there, but the search for answers isn't easy or safe. Digging under the Sphinx could destabilize the whole structure. Anyone who goes into those tunnels might get lost and never make it out. Not to mention, underground excavations cost a fortune. Wouldn't it be amazing if someone invented a device that could scan underground spaces and create detailed 3D models of what's down there?
You've probably heard of Nikola Tesla, and of course you know about the Great Pyramids of Egypt. But what if I told you that Tesla might have discovered something about the pyramids that could explain the mystery surrounding them? Wait,